It's reported that more than 20,000 people die each year in sub-Saharan Africa due to snakebite, and a recent study shows that these numbers may be severely inaccurate. And what's worse, we are running out of anti-venom.
South Africa is in desperate need of anti-venom, critical shortage of anti-venom.
Anti-venom. Of anti-venom.
This isn't good. Africa is running out of anti-venom as we speak. So I'm on my way to find out a little bit more about this issue.
There's a great concern because it's our government's responsibility under our constitution. They have a mandate to make these drugs available, and they're not doing it.
Before understanding the shortage, we need to know what is antivenom.
So antivenom is the only effective treatment for serious snakebite. It's a horse-derived substance, basically the serum that is removed from horse blood once they've been immunized. And what it does is it neutralizes the snake venom.
Antivenom was first created by a French researcher named Albert Calmet in the 1800s. We used what is called mithridatism, which is making yourself, or in this case, making horses immune to venom, so we can draw their blood, separate the red blood cells from the plasma, and use the plasma to create the antivenom. Plasma is the start of the antivenom process. Chemicals and heat are used to isolate the antibodies from the plasma in order to create this antivenom. Here in South Africa, we use horses to produce our antivenom. The guy who started this was Frank Tidswell. He first started immunizing old retired ambulance horses in 1898 to create this antivenom. The antibodies in antivenom cannot reverse the effects of snake venom. So if your finger is rotting away, it's not going to make your finger grow back, but it can stop the further spread of the venom in your system.
So initially, the CEO of the South African vaccine producers told us that they were busy with a verification process when the first shortages started, and we were querying it. Now I'm talking 8, 9, 10 months back. And then it was power outages. That was another big story, that with the power outages, they can't run all their systems. And then we were told that there's a shortage of some substances that are needed in the process of manufacturing and bottling the antivenom.
Now, the lack of electricity because of load shedding is being blamed as the cause of this shortage. But is it really the cause, or just one of the many factors that is involved in the shortage? We've got to dig a little bit deeper to find out.
We don't know what's going on. No one talks to us. No one tells us. I order antivenom and they say, sorry, we can't supply you. We have a backlog. And I get hospitals phoning me daily looking for antivenom. Today I've had 7 vets phone so far looking for antivenom. Dogs bitten by snakes, and there's dogs dying.
Why is something like load shedding being blamed when there are systems like backup batteries, generators, solar systems, and completely off-grid systems that are available and more easily accessible? After all, this is a life and death issue. It's not just about having no power because I can't watch TV. Oh, that's sad. No. This is affecting lives. But what is really funny is the World Health Organization actually declared snakebite as a neglected tropical disease, which means more funds and stuff gets allocated towards things like that. In fact, over 80 million pounds was allocated for research into better antivenoms and better drug development for snakebite in 2019. But where's that gone?
At one stage, there was 80 million pounds made available for further research into alternative antivenoms and into jacking up what we have, and maybe even a pan-African antivenom.
But in my brain, basically that means if that amount of money was made available, things like finances shouldn't be an excuse for getting a backup power system. In fact, they actually have a backup power system at SAVP. I was there. There are generators running. In fact, they don't work all the time. Not sure why. There was even a quotation that was approved for a multi-million rand coal deal to run these backup generators. And when I went to SAVP, I saw the laboratory and it was in darkness, total darkness. But they had no power for over a week, even with their backup generators. Those generators seem to run certain sections of the NHLS, but not the SAVP section. We all want to know, why is there an anti-venom shortage?
I think it's just total incompetence. My view, and I don't have inside information, it's just another government department. I mean, even if our roads have collapsed, and our waterworks have collapsed, and our power supply has collapsed, and our airline has collapsed, why would anti-venom production not collapse as well?
And South Africa is the only one who produces this polyvalent anti-venom.
And when I go to Senegal, Guinea, Ghana, Angola, Mozambique, wherever I work, the DRC, they only keep our anti-venom. So now the shortage affects all of them, all of those countries. I've been having desperate phone calls from Maun. There isn't a single drop of anti-venom in Maun. Maun is the heart of northern Botswana, and it's the heart of the Okavango Delta. You've got all those fancy lodges, wilderness safaris, all those guys with all these rich American tourists and European tourists, and they can't get anti-venom. That's a disaster.
And people are dying just because anti-venom, in fact, isn't a profitable drug. So is this all about money? I had the bright idea to reach out to the South African vaccine producers to receive a comment maybe on why there is this shortage and what's going on and if anything's being done to resolve the issue. I didn't expect any response whatsoever. I just reached out cold just to, do the due diligence of journalism.
We wrote an open letter. 27 of us, mainly medical doctors and people on the National Snakebite Initiative, wrote an open letter to the Minister of Health highlighting these issues, the fact that we don't have anti-venom, that it is a neglected tropical disease, that we're at risk of people dying, and a lot of people are waiting for their anti-venom. And the Minister of Health he did a press release saying there's no shortage of anti-venom. So he just denied that we have a shortage. So this is what we're dealing with. We have big problems. And then if you phone, there's no one available to comment.
In 2018, the SAVP's director, Megan Safer, reported that they manufactured about 15,000 ampules of anti-venom each year. The demand for the anti-venom doesn't just span South Africa, but numerous southern African countries like Mozambique, where almost 9,000 people each year are estimated to die from snake bites. Something I heard from Johan Marais, which was quite interesting, is a recent study he was involved in.
I was involved with a very interesting study in northern Mozambique, and we published our results, where we went to one of the large provinces and we interviewed every single community in an entire province on the number of people bitten and the number of people killed. And we then extrapolated that data for the whole of Mozambique. And it's quite scary because our prediction is that close on 8,000 people a year die in Mozambique alone from snakebite. Deaths. 8,000. 7,900 deaths a year in Mozambique alone.
Wow, that's scary.
And now I've been speaking to some German doctors who are doing very good work in Tanzania, and it appears that the picture there is quite similar. And it might be similar for most other African countries. So at the moment, if we look at the World Health Organization's predictions for Africa, most of the deaths are in the Sahel district with the carpet vipers or the Source Code vipers, and they talk about a total of 20,000 deaths a year for Africa. If it's close on 8,000 for Mozambique, that number is way out.
Some experts have said that the demand spans 200 to 300,000 ampules of anti-venom each year, which is obviously crazy if we can only produce 15,000 at max capacity when they're actually producing stuff. The SAVP has been pretty quiet about their current production output. While they issued a statement back in spring disclosing that they produced 1,422 vials between December of 2022 and March of 2023, no further data has been revealed, and a few people have reached out and received no responses. The production problems might not be solely attributed to power outages. The NHLS has a long line of high-profile cases of mismanagement and corruption. Then in 2021, former NHLS CEO Joyce Machale was arrested on corruption charges related to a tender scheme valued at over 115 million rand. That same year, the NHLS's successor CFO, Michael Sass, was arrested on fraud and theft charges relating to a 14 million rand PPE tender paid out by the agency. Today, the NHLS is led by CEO Dr. Kamani Chetty, who replaced Mohale after her termination. While it's important to note that Dr. Chetty has never been implicated in criminal investigations, many experts have been pretty critical of her management decisions. In 2020, a News 24 investigation revealed that Dr. Chetty paid 282 million rand to a Chinese company for COVID-19 testing equipment that was never delivered. Dr. Chetty also approved a 65 million rand purchase of 60 Sprinter vans to serve as mobile clinics during the pandemic. However, numerous insiders have alleged that these vans are not properly utilized and sit parked in the NHLS's parking lots to this day. We reached out to the SAVP's official spokesperson for comment, and despite not initially taking our emails as seriously as we would have liked, that was crazy in itself, he ultimately agreed to meet with us and discuss the shortage. I arrived at the NHLS's campus for the meeting. Okay. So the photo was taken of me and we are entering, so that's good. And after getting through security, one of the officers directed me to the anti-venom lab. Let's see what happens. Into the anti-venom reception now. I went there and the building was dark and desolate. There were no people there. I shouted, "Hello, hello." After a few moments, I was able to find an employee that guided me to the spokesperson's office. Then I was able to find somebody else who also directed me to his office and found out that he wasn't there, so she decided to phone him, to which he angrily declined to come out and meet with me. So despite being let on site and getting ready to interview about the anti-venom shortage, I was turned down and turned away now. While I cannot confirm how many vials have been produced in these recent months, one of the largest hospital networks in the country told me that they are in fact receiving deliveries for anti-venom, but a small fraction of the demand. After being down to the scary number of just 23 vials split across 40 to 50 different hospitals across the country, the network was able to increase that number to about 200 vials currently, which is an improvement but still far from the amount that is required. For context, a snakebite might require 10 to 15 vials of antivenom per person. I don't know what's going on. The secrecy here is just insane. And the fact is they don't even want to respond to people with questions about the antivenom shortage, which is kind of weird.
How important is snakebite to our government when you have 12 to 14 deaths a year in the entire country? You can do that in 2 minutes in car accidents.
So what do you think about this? I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments down below. For me, it's truly terrifying because the deeper I dug, the scarier it got. There's a lot more to this.